Sonic Frontiers is an almost perfect Sonic game. A massive step up from its predecessor Sonic Forces, Sonic Frontiers is the fabled, quote, good Sonic game that fans have been hoping for since the transition to 3D. Even though there's been quite a few great games since. This isn't a poorly executed concept or a soulless product. Sonic Frontiers makes you feel. It has soul, literally in some cases. And it's a fairly well executed idea with potential to be greater if given the chance. You can see that they actually tried something. There's a desire, an ambition. Taking everyone's favorite Blue Blur, our favorite Supersonic Hedgehog, and putting him in an environment where he is free to go with the wind and free to explore while having a large space to show off his speed and run freely is welcome. The game marks a new direction and the start of a new generation of Sonic games that will reportedly have a similar style to this one, and I for one am all for that. I think Sega and Sonic Team did a brilliant job for their first outing on this part, and I think they might have stumbled upon gold. A winning formula, if you will. It's something that they can build upon and improve with any potential sequels or upcoming projects. But for a first attempt at something like this, I'd say this was bangers. There are things that I didn't necessarily like about the game. I have quite a big issue with it in fact, but I'll get into it a bit later. But in terms of my overall thoughts and opinions and experience, I'd say it's all mostly positive. Let's talk about visuals, because I think this might easily be the best looking Sonic game ever thus far. And I would say that it's natural because it's the latest one, but Sonic Forces looks worse than Sonic Unleashed, and those games are like a decade apart. But nah, it's clear that they took time and care when it came to detail. Whether it be like the little things where grass and flowers start moving as you walk, or the raindrops falling off your body and dripping down your body, or the stunning views of the different islands from top to bottom, I'd say that this game is utterly gorgeous. Character models look more detailed and polished than ever before. I really like how Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy and Eggman look in this game. There's something about the textures used here that bring them more to life for me. And I really appreciate the facial animations, showing all kinds of different emotions from the characters and making them feel more lifelike and less empty and less emotionless like in some other previous games. Supersonic in this game might be the best he's ever looked. The way he has that shine and that glow with those striking red eyes, there's just something godly about him, and I love his animations. I'm also a big fan of the design choices that they used for Sage. Since she is artificial, she doesn't really show much emotion at first, but when she eventually does, it is quite effective. As for Sonic's movements, I'd say everything is on point. He's really slick, and of course he's really fast, and the game does a good job at showing us just that. He has many different skills and moves that he can pull off, and they all look really cool. The new Psyloop technique looks especially nice with the glittery streak that it has. And the environment. I knew I was going to do this even before the game came out, but I can just lose myself running around aimlessly, admiring how awe-inspiring the world looks. There's 5 different islands to explore and roam around, and they are completely different and they all have their own identity and look. And they're also lifelike and lively. Whether you're covering ground, rolling around at the speed of sound, or you're flying through the air and climbing high or riding low, there's never a dull moment on these islands. Let's take the first 3 islands for example. The first one being Kronos Island is our introduction to everything. It's fairly normal and it has lovely green grass, waterfalls, flowers, stone ruins and whatnot. Ares Island, the second island, is completely different. This is a more wasteland-like type of island. It's in the desert. There's even enemies who hide in the sand and jump out. The third one being Chaos Island is definitely more chaotic looking, and it's more of a volcanic area with a volcano and a darker feel to it. And each place looks good in its own way, and they're really fun to explore. The types of enemies that you encounter will vary from island to island, with you encountering stronger enemies as time goes by. Speaking of enemies, the enemies in this game are different from enemies that Sonic would normally go up against. I said this game reminds me a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn, not only because of the exploring factor, but also because the vibe that the enemies give me when I look at them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know Sonic spent his entire life fighting robots, but these aren't your average Eggman robots. These are Guardians. These enemies give me a more techno feeling in contrast to Sonic's raw talent and ability. Eggman's robots still have a certain comedic charm to them, and these guys feel more serious and cold and deadly. And there's a whole range of enemies to go up against, and I really like some of the designs. They make you feel something different just by looking at them. I'm a huge fan of the boss designs as well. The Titan robots are like these giant dangerous looking folks, and they're very menacing. The second Titan might be my favorite design of the bunch, as it's this giant snake looking thing. In addition to the islands, we also have cyberspace stages to play. This is the more old school style type of Sonic gameplay, where you enter and you fight and navigate your way through the stage and reach the goal. Standard Sonic stuff. Although all of these zones recycle the same 3 to 4 zones, something which I am not a fan of, individually I'd say they all look okay. I just wish there was more diversity here. I'm not trying to see Green Hill Zone for the 900th time. It feels like they just played it safe here by reusing zones that people loved. They're still fun to play through though, and still a step up from the lifeless stages in Forces. I'd be a bit more harsh on them if it was meant to be the central focus, but it isn't. The island stages are. These are treated more like mini challenges in between, so I'm not too down on it. Guys, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Sonic related content. Check out the playlist on screen as well for more, and comment your thoughts on the game thus far. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What are your thoughts? 99% of the game is just beautiful, and I cannot stop gushing over the way it looks. The different sounds used in the game are also superb. Of course, there's the standard Sonic sound effects like the sound when you collect rings and pass checkpoints, etc. But sounds are so effective. Like when you're going really fast and you hear that little whoosh thing, little things like hearing the sounds of Sonic footsteps changing depending on what surface you run on, or the enemy noises or the various different noises that Sonic makes when doing all these different moves. He shoots you with literal sound waves that come out of his shoes. I said the visuals were great, but when it meshes well with the sounds, it creates a better, more realistic experience that gets you more invested. And I love those cute noises that the Coco make. They remind me of little Pokemon creatures, honestly. And of course, there's the big one for me, and that's the music. Sonic games almost never miss with their music. The music in these games have become very important for me. To me, it enhances the experience greatly. It gets me more into it and more psyched up. A good soundtrack can redeem even the worst Sonic games and make a great Sonic game even greater. So I was very pleased to hear for myself that the music in this game is up there with some of the best Sonic songs that I've ever heard. And that's an extremely high bar. I didn't want to see or hear anything regarding the game until I played it, so the first time I heard the vocal songs was during gameplay, which just gave me goosebumps all around as I was playing. The non-vocal themes were also very effective as well. The islands had a more calming type of feel mixed in with some techno at times, while the cyberspace stages had a full-on electro dubstep type of vibe. Now let's talk about the gameplay, which is the other big reason why I love this game so much. I think this game, at least for me, does the best job in making you feel like Sonic the Hedgehog. That's probably in big part to having an open space to roam freely. I played the game on normal mode. The control scheme is very simple, and once I got a real grasp of how things worked, it almost started to feel a bit too easy. I'm not gonna really complain about it yet because at the beginning I was getting my ass beat for hours on end. The game doesn't have a special gimmick like the Wisps or the Werehog to give Sonic some new powers or abilities. This game is just pretty much just Sonic as he is. You have the standard Sonic moves like jumping, boosting, stomping and homing attacks, and you can also punch and kick, and unlike most games, these punches and kicks actually land and are effective. You also have access to a skill tree where you can unlock new moves with XP that you collect as you play. These moves do a great job at incorporating Sonic's speed into his fighting style. You can do things like shooting soundwave projectiles and various types of spinning, tornado and ball attacks. Probably one of the most diverse movesets Sonic has ever had, and you can practice all your moves in the new training mode. You also get to play as Super Sonic, and Super Sonic in this game is a bit of a double-edged sword for me. I feel like they over-rely on the form in this game, and it's a bit overused, like a get out of jail free card, but at the same time, this game does wonders at making him feel like an unstoppable beast. Controlling him was a bit difficult at first, but once I got used to it, I started slaying my enemies. This game really made Super Sonic feel important again though. You spend most of your time in the game exploring islands, solving puzzles and fighting enemies, as well as playing through the previously mentioned cyberspace stages. So there's quite a lot to do in the game and a lot of collecting. I must say that the platforming in this game is some of the best that I've ever experienced in any game. And there's lots of it here. It's so satisfying climbing and jumping and grinding and maneuvering your way through obstacles and hazards. There is a couple of points where I'm so invested and so into it, to the point where I'm really high up and I get this mini panic attack from falling, because it felt so damn real to me. I just love that a lot. There's various different puzzles and mini games to do, and if you want to sit back and de-stress, then you can go fishing with Big the Cat. In terms of look, feel, atmosphere and sound, I'd say, to me at least, that in theory, this is a perfect Sonic game. And then things begin to fall off a bit for me. The story of Sonic Frontiers is a bit of a mixed bag for me. I mentioned my problems earlier with Super Sonic, but there's still enjoyment to be found in it, and there's lots of interesting ideas placed in. There's character growth and further development for characters. Sonic's friends actually don't feel like afterthoughts here. I'm not gonna reveal too much here because I got a separate video coming out discussing the story, since upon my first playthrough I'm not sure that I fully understand it. I can't tell if it was bad storytelling and poor pacing, or if I just simply missed certain parts or I wasn't paying attention. So I want to give the story the time and care that it deserves to make sure that I'm being fair. I really like the dialogue and the emotion shown from the characters though. There are bits that felt a bit old and repetitive, but I didn't mind. But what I did mind was how certain parts were rushed. The storytelling did feel stronger than previous games though. Do I recommend Sonic Frontiers though? Yes. It felt like an epic adventure. It reminded me a lot of Sonic Unleashed, which is one of the best Sonic games ever. I know this might be a bit expensive, but if you can afford it, then it's a must-have for Sonic fans. I'd argue that it could also make new fans out of the series as well. I really enjoyed it for the most part. Do I think it could have been better? Absolutely. There's so much potential if we keep going down this path. Not just in terms of gameplay, but in terms of story as well. And Sonic Frontiers was a really fun experience that kept me wanting more. It wasn't perfect, but to me, it damn sure was near perfect. Click the video on screen now to take you to another beloved Sonic game of mine, and subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you for watching, take care. Peace out.